Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to Freebeat, where I post new music-related content every single day. So if that sounds good to you, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Let's get started. So a short while ago, I made a video on whether I thought that the Teenage Engineering OPZ was still worth it in 2020. Spoiler alert, yes, I think the OPZ is worth it more so now than ever. And if you'd like, I'll leave a link to that video down in the description below. But one of the reasons that I think this device is worth it, more even now than when it came out, is because Teenage Engineering has been so dedicated to updating it. Last year we got sampling, which was a huge update. We've gotten the ability to play 6-note chords. We've gotten the ability to use an LFO in the effects section. We can use the arpeggio track as another lead if we'd like to. The list goes on and on. Not to mention the expansion modules that Teenage Engineering is starting to put out. This kind of has everybody saying, what next? What's next for the OPZ? So in this video, I would like to give you guys my top 5 wish list of features that I hope come to the OPZ soon. We're going to start with an honorable mention, and that would be for a second LFO to come to the OPZ. So the more and more I learn about synthesis, I learn how an LFO works and how you can use that to affect different parameters of your synthesizer. And different things you can do with it. And you can make all sorts of fun, amazing sounds with it. I just wish there was a second one. If we could get a second LFO on the OPZ, I'm not exactly sure how they'd implement it, but it would open up the synth engines even more. And for a device this small, of course, it already has pretty good synth engines, but I feel a second LFO would really help to spice things up. All right, so now let's actually start with the top 5. It's in no particular order except for the last one. Number 1 is my most requested feature on this thing. So yeah, at number 5, we've got an undo function. If you've got an OPZ, then you've probably, done this before. You got a track going. Let's get that metronome out of here. Quantize that. And then for some reason you accidentally take one of the steps off, just a complete accident. I can't remember what sound I had there. I would love for there to be some kind of undo function that it's a button combination, you hold it, and it brings that step back. It could be something as simple as holding like shift and record and the plus or minus button, just a way to go one step back, undo your previous action. Maybe you accidentally spun a parameter knob, you accidentally put a step in or took a step out, you accidentally erased a pattern, I feel an undo function would really, really be helpful. I'm not sure how that would work exactly, but I feel an undo function would be very beneficial to OPZ users. Next up at number 4, I would love to be able to load any of the 8 track types in any of the 8 sound generating tracks. Of course, on the OPZ, we have a kick track, a snare track, a hi-hat track, an auxiliary track, a bass track, a lead track, an ARP track, and a chord track. I would love to be able to, say, use like a bass, a snare, and a cymbal track, and then load another chord track into the auxiliary track, load another lead track into the bass track, have like 2 leads, and then a bass and 2 chord tracks, something like that. Just the ability to dictate what track is in which slot would be so cool, because you could really get some cool layering. I know it'd be difficult because in terms of processing power, in theory, if you had 8 chord tracks, that would be an overwhelming amount of voices coming out of this thing. But I think they could have some way of switching things around. Ideally, I'd love to be able to use all 16 tracks like that. So, if you're not using the DMX or the video track or the module track, you could load like another chord track or lead track, or, even another like auxiliary percussion track in there. I think that'd be really cool to be able to do. Maybe you'd have to use the app for that or a computer, but it could be really cool. Everybody could personalize their setups that way. All right, before we move on to our top 3, we are going to go to a quick commercial break. While we're on the commercial break, if you guys would do me a favor, leave a comment down below. What is your number 1 feature that you want to come to the OPZ? Let me know in the comments down below. We'll be right back. All right, we are back and we are counting down my top 5 wish list for things I would like to come to the OPZ via update. And I'm going to cheat. There's one coming up that's via module. In fact, that's going to be number 3. So if you're not familiar, the OPZ has 2 forms of input/output. There is an audio out, an 1/8" jack, And then there is a USB Type-C port, which also does audio out, audio in, and MIDI. You can also get the OP Lab module, which I don't have, but it slots in right here. You take this out here, and you can put it in there, and then you get four new jacks on the back for sync, for like pocket operators and Volcas, MIDI in and out, as well as a couple of CV outputs, which is really cool. It's a great module. It is a little spendy. It's $150 US. What I would like to see, though, is an inexpensive module that simply has an 1/8" audio input and an 1/8" audio output. There is no basic audio input on the OPZ for sampling, just a microphone on this side. And I think that having an actual audio input jack, like on the OP1, would be very, very cool on this guy and would make sampling on the go a lot easier. And having a second audio out would be really cool, in addition to the built-in one, would just add a little more functionality to it. But I could see a module like that being priced at like $39.99, really affordable, and adding a really awesome feature to the OPZ. All right, my second most wanted feature would be to expand and view the pattern resolution in full for longer patterns on the OPZ. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, let's go ahead and put our kick drum on 4 on the floor. Now this pattern is 1 measure long, so we have 4 sets of 16th notes. We have 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Now if we make it 2 measures long, suddenly it's not 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So it gets smaller, the resolution does. And if you go all the way to 8 measures, all of a sudden each one of these is just a half note. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know how they would do it. Again, I'm not too familiar with the processing power of the OPZ, but it would be really cool to be able to break an 8-measure pattern down into its individual measures so we could still view all 16 steps in those measures. You can still program outside of, tapping things into the sequencer, but you have to do it in real time, and it can be really hard to get stuff right. Let's try to play an 8-measure bass line that goes a lot faster than the grid would let us play normally. And you can hear, as it plays it back, not all my notes are there. So you lose a lot of resolution when you step up to an 8-measure pattern. I believe this is due to the limited processing power on the OPZ, but if there was a way around it, it would make a lot of folks happy. You could have full, fleshed out 8-measure patterns. And just imagine if you had a full 16 patterns that were all full of 8-measure phrases. I mean, the possibilities on the OPZ would be even greater than what they are now. So that was number 2. You're probably all wondering what number 1 is. It's pretty simple, and I think it would be a pretty easy fix to do as well. Right now, when you hold the mixer button, you can mute any of the tracks available. However, there's no way to solo them. My most wanted feature to come to the OPZ is a solo button for a track. So first you hold down the project button, make sure you're on the right pattern, then you hold the mixer button, and then you have to turn off all of the tracks that you don't want to play. So listening to the bass track would require us to mute the kick, the snare, the hi-hat, the auxiliary percussion, the lead, the arp, and the chord track. And then you'd have to do that for each pattern of your song, of your project. It's such a pain, and I feel like it would be very, very easy to include a solo function. All it would take, I'm sure, is just a different button combination, which there are still some left on the OPZ to use. It would just make things so much easier, and the workflow would improve vastly if there was a way to solo a track. It seems so simple, but the OPZ does not have a way to solo tracks. So that is my most wanted feature for the OPZ. So that's going to do it. My top 5 most wanted features for the OPZ. Did you guys agree with my list? Let me know in the comments down below. If you didn't agree with my list, then especially let me know down in the comments below. I want to know your top feature that you want to come to the OPZ. If you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a like on it. If not, you can leave a dislike. That's okay too. Either way, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Huge shout out to my patrons. The show couldn't happen without them. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.